Hello. This video will introduce the Catalogue of Controls and Metrics, which is one of the component of the MEDINA framework. We have divided the session in 4 chapters. First, an overview of the catalogue. Then, I will show how to use it, including a demo. Following, a short part dedicated to the installation. And finally, some pointers for further reading about MEDINA. Let's go with the introduction. To put in context, MEDINA project aims to provide a framework of tools and techniques supporting the continuous audit-based certification of cloud services in the EUCS standard. The Catalogue is one of the many tools developed in MEDINA. The Catalogue is the component that stores the EUCS certification scheme. More concretely, the version of August 2022. On the one hand, it offers an API to the rest of MEDINA components to access the scheme information. And, on the other hand, it has a graphical user interface that allows the user to navigate through the EUCS to consult it. All the data contained in the catalogue is preloaded at deploy time, EUCS scheme, metrics, and guidelines. A part of its main function, the catalogue is enhanced with some extra data and features, like metrics, developed for EUCS requirements. Implementation guidelines, for a set of requirements. It also provides a partial mapping of controls to other standards. A set of questionnaires for self-assessment. And some useful administration data. This is a diagram of the MEDINA framework architecture, which we will not explain in detail. On the left side, you can see the catalogue, highlighted with a surrounding box. The databases below contains the EUCS controls and requirements, the metrics, and questionnaires. The thick black arrows coming out from the catalogue represent the information exchanges, which flow to other MEDINA tools. For example, the Continuous Certification Evaluation tool, which retrieves the EUCS schema specification. The NL2CNL translator, that requests the metrics and maps them to MEDINA ontology. The orchestrator and the assessment and management of organizational evidence, who retrieve the information about controls and metrics. The risk assessment tool, that receives the results of self-assessment questionnaire. As said before, the main data is preloaded in the catalogue. The only input data comes from users answering the self-assessment questionnaire. Well, here you can see the list of components which the catalogue interacts with, that I have just explained with the architecture diagram. It is left here for reference. Now, let's enter in more detail in the use of the catalogue. The EUCS schema is organized in 20 categories, 190 controls, nearly 1,000 requirements that are divided in 3 levels of assurance: basic, substantial, and high. Of all of them, MEDINA targets 30 for selected requirements. As we state, MEDINA provides realizable metrics only for the technical and organizational measures referenced in EUCS high assurance level requiring continuous, automated monitoring. Metrics are used to measure the efficiency and effectiveness of the technical and organizational measures put in place. They have to be quantifiable, to be compared with a target value, and are collected on a regular basis for continuous monitoring. Metrics are defined as formulas, as you can see in this table. The first metric is represented by a Boolean value, to check if the malware protection is enabled. While the second metric is an integer, that measures the number of days the password remains unchanged. There is a total of 157 metrics in the catalogue. The implementation guidelines are explanations of how a security requirement can be implemented, in a vendor and technology agnostic way. They serve, principally, as a guidance for the user, but also are an input to the natural language processing tool, that use them to refine the MEDINA certification language. In MEDINA, we have defined implementation guidelines for the 34 selected requirements. The Catalogue also provides a mapping to other certification schemes. It implements this mapping, identifying controls that are similar in scope between the EUCS and other security schemes, which are concretely C5 from Germany, the French Secnom Cloud, the ISO 27 family, and the Cisco Cloud Control Framework. Now, let's see a demo of the Catalogue, centered in the handling of the EUCS schema.
This is the home of the MEDINA framework, where we already logged as an administrator. And let's go to the Catalogue, clicking in the left menu. Here, the menu options are Catalogue, which allows direct access to the EUCS scheme elements, that is, the security framework, the categories, controls, requirements, metrics, and also to similar controls and the implementation guidelines. We can access also to Questionnaires, which provide access to the self-assessment, the help that shows the user manual in the form of a PDF file, and also the administration menu, who provides access to the REST API information, where you can play with the front-end and the back-end API, and also to the audit logs that contains the record of the changes made by the user to the EUCS scheme. These changes are restricted in this version to the description of the elements of the schema. So let's see the Catalogue options in more detail. We have only one framework, that is the EUCS. Although the system is prepared to include others. In categories, we can see the list of the 20 categories of EUCS, and we can view the details of a category if you want, or even edit it if you have privileges for that. Okay. Next level are the controls, where the list of the controls for all the categories are shown, and the same happens with the requirements. Shows you the complete list of requirements, as they are a lot. You maybe want to use the filter on the top, where you can select some requirements by code, by description, by type, or by assurance level. Let's see, for example, the requirements of the human resource category. Type in HR here. Okay. So for each requirement, you have here the list of those requirements. This is shorter than the previous one. For each requirement, you can see in the list the description, the assurance level, the type, the controls, is linked to, and even if it has metrics or implementation guidelines associated. In this case, okay, we have one here with some metrics associated. To finish with the listing, we can view the metrics list. We can see all the metrics contained in the catalog. You can view more details of a specific metrics clicking in the view button, and you can here see the target value. Oh, okay. The interval, the resource type, the requirements associated, etc. Okay. If you want to be more specific, you can also use the breadcrumbs on the top of the links included in the list to navigate through the schema. For example, let's select the EUCS framework, categories, and here you can select here let's select the access management category controls. Here in the controls, let's select the requirements of the first control, and for example here the high assurance level metrics. So here we are seeing the specific metrics associated with this requirement. And we can do the same path backwards. Click on the requirements link to go to the requirements of the control. Then in any of the elements of the list, click on the control and then link on the access management category to see the list of the categories, and finally go back to the EUCS framework. Regarding the mapping of to the schemes or the similar controls, as we call them, it shows the left side a list of the EUCS controls, and on the right side the control that is similar, including the name of the ID and the standard. As has been said before, we include mappings for C5, Signum Cloud France, ISO 27002 and 27017, and Cisco CCF. Okay. As the list is quite long, you can use the filter. For example, to search controls related with security, we can write here security search, and here we have the sublist. Okay, and if you want to filter even more, can apply for example we can select one of the standard filter the first list in a second list more reduced, only with the Signum Cloud standard controls. Okay, the last menu item, the implementation guidelines, show a list of the 34 requirements for which a guideline has been defined. To see the guideline, just click the view button, and the guideline, you can see here that the guideline consists of the requirement definition, the control objective, you have some external and internal references from other externals, and some definition of some key concepts. Finally, the guidelines about that explain how to implement the requirement.
Returning to the catalogue. It also includes a tool for self-assessment. The self-assessment questionnaires have been developed to assess the compliance with the EUCS requirements. They are addressed to two different user types. One is the cloud service provider, to perform a self-assessment. The other is an auditor, to audit the cloud service, writing non-conformities, noting evidences, etc. There are 3 levels of certification: basic, substantial, and high. Each requirement of the EUCS is covered by one or more questions, whose answers are consolidated to calculate the compliance of the requirement, being the possible answers: fully supported, partially supported, not supported, and not applicable. Finally, a detailed report can be generated with the results. To finish with the catalogue, it has 2 interesting features for the administrator user. One is the Open API interface, that allows to play with the front-end and back-end APIs. The other feature are the recorded logs, that reflect the local changes made by the users to the EUCS schema. Changes are restricted to the name of some elements. Let's see a second demo, now dealing with the questionnaires.
Okay, and let's go with the questionnaires. The questionnaires menu item allows the user to continue working on an existing questionnaire or to start a new one. After this selection, the things are very similar for both options. The only difference is that when you load the questionnaire, some answers are already provided. So let's start a new questionnaire. For this, we have to select the assurance level, the framework, because the framework EUCS is compulsory. Let's select basic, for example, and then you have to select the cloud service you are assessing. The elections from the list of services you are assigned to. Okay, let's start. Once you start the questionnaire, the name is automatically assigned based on the date, the service ID, and the assurance level. Okay. Once in the questionnaire, the first set of questions are presented. They are ordered by category on the left, and inside each category by control. Each page contains the questions for the requirements of a control. You can navigate back and forth in the questionnaire using the control name, the previous and next buttons that you have in the button. Oh, no, there has been some error in the navigation. Okay, I mean the previous and next buttons you have on the button. Then you can also navigate by selecting a specific category. You can answer the questions, write evidences, or write comments. And only if you are an auditor, you can write some non-conformities of the requirement. The compliance of the requirement is automatically calculated for each requirement based on in your response. Here you have the compliance for this requirement. It has 3 questions. For example, if I change some answer here, you see that the compliance has changed from partial to yes, and vice versa. the result of the compliance can vary according to well-established rules. And when you are done, you can click exit, and the questionnaire is saved. Then if you want, you can select any questionnaire and remove it, or generate a report which produce a PDF file that we can open. First, the compliance for each requirement, big list of requirements of pages of the PDF file, and it has a graphical representation for each requirement compliance. This is empty in this case because we have answers only a few questions. That's all.
Next, we will give some technical details about the component and explain how to install it. The installation for a local deployment is pretty simple. First, clone the repository of the catalog. Then, execute a Docker compose up with .env.local as the environment file. Afterwards, the catalog will be available at this nip.io address. Regarding technical specifications, the catalog is based in a microservices architecture, using JHipster framework. The backend is Java with Spring Boot. The frontend uses Angular and Bootstrap. And Docker Compose is used for installation. To conclude the video, if you still want to know more about the catalog, or MEDINA in general, here you have some pointers. If you need more details about the component presented so far, or about the MEDINA project in general, you can visit the official web page on the first link, where you will also find all public deliverables of the project. Project-related videos, such as demos or training videos, are also available in the MEDINA YouTube channel. The third link points to the MEDINA community in Zenodo, where among other things, the papers produced during the project are available. Finally, the source code of the project is available at the last link, in the MEDINA GitLab. And that was it. Thank you and goodbye.